Hi everyone, welcome back. Welcome to our third session. I am so glad you're here and I thank you for joining me. And I thank ACC for letting me have this time to be with you. As you know, we have been talking about ways to change our diet a little bit to make it a little bit better so we won't develop any chronic diet-related diseases. And the way we do that is through eating more plant-derived foods, okay? So in the last two sessions, we talked about avoiding meat and dairy, replacing it with other things a little bit. And because saturated fat that comes in both meat and dairy really contribute to heart disease, high cholesterol, and diabetes, actually, type 2 diabetes, okay? So we've kind of worked our way through. And so now if you're making some of those changes, you might be, when people ask you what you're doing, you might be saying, oh, I'm trying this plant-based thing, and they'll have their opinion about it, or they'll ask you a lot of questions about it that you may not have the answers to. And you might be venturing out into the out into the world trying to eat out or go to holidays or social occasions and finding it a little bit daunting because it's a new habit and you're not really sure how to do that. So that's what we're going to talk about today, all right? So we're going to, get into our notes here and are those up?
We can send it to the URL.
Okay. So if you, for my slides, Ted?
Oh, your slides.
Yeah, so for my slides, sorry about that. Also, I did want to tell you, and the crew here, they're so great, they reminded me that there's a URL site, okay, where you can get the recipes and you can get some handouts that I've given, left in there for you. So, the URL is tinyurl.com/ACC plant-based, okay? And you can see it on the slides there, on the screen. And when you type that in, it'll take you to a location and you'll have last week's recipe, you'll have all the handouts that I provided, okay? So hopefully you can find that okay. So here we are, week 3 in plant-based nutrition, and let's give it a go, okay? So what are you going to be learning this week? What we're going to cover today is how to eat plant-based in a carnivore world. What do I mean by that? Well, we live in the U.S. in a very meat and dairy, especially meat-based world. And so eating the standard American diet is really heavy in that for a lot. Think about it. Traditionally, it was meat and potatoes and a little bit of vegetables, right? And so, maybe some bread. But it's usually a bigger piece of protein. And so people really emphasize the protein from meat sources and dairy sources, thinking that we really need that, when in fact, not so much, as you'll find as we go through this, all right? And so we're going to, learn how today how to navigate that, eating out in restaurants, like I said, traveling, right? We're getting back to be able to travel again. How about the holidays? Think about what we eat in our traditional holidays. Thanksgiving's an example here in the U.S., right? A big turkey, right? And then a bunch of different side dishes. So it's like learning just ways to navigate through that. That's what we're going to cover today. And the point is that if you decide not to eat plant-based those days, that is fine, because remember, it's about a pattern of eating, really, okay? It's about making the best choices you can for the majority of the time, all right? So, and then we're going to talk about some of those questions you might be getting, like, for example, how do you get your protein, right? All right, and then we're going to do a cooking demo. I brought some supplies. We're going to go through that really quick, all right? So let's go ahead and pop into the next slide. So often when we eat out, these are some of our choices. You get grilled meat, or maybe it's a piece of fish, which people think are better. But salmon, which is very popular, is still very high in saturated fat. And yes, I know it has the omega-3s, and I don't know if you watched our first session. It's a ratio that you need to be aware of, omega-3 to omega-6, right? And so if you're eating less omega-6s, you don't need as many omega-3s, all right? So you don't have to be as conscious about getting those. But meat is very dominant, and so is dairy, and so are added oils. And those are all the things that contribute to our chronic disease, all right? And to our little extra fluff that we might be carrying around our middle, okay? So just know, because we know that fat, which comes in saturated fat or added oils, olive oil, coconut oil, canola oil, fried foods, fat has more calories per gram than protein or carbohydrates. So when we use it, a lot, it adds calories, all right? Okay, so that's kind of what we're talking about. So how do you order at a restaurant, right? The first thing is, one of the best things you can do for your health is to cook at home, okay? It really is, because you have control over how you prepare it, right? And you have control over how it's cooked and how it's seasoned and all those things. So if you're trying to avoid salt, it's way easier when you cook at home. You don't have to, there's nothing lost in translation. So for example, when you order, you look at the menu and you can only get so much information about how something's prepared on the menu. Then you order it with the server, and the server goes back and gives it to the chef, and then maybe someone else has something to do with it back there, and then it comes back to you. So there's a lot of steps where the order can go wrong. And so let's say you ordered steamed vegetables, no salt, just plain, and no oil, but somewhere along the line it might get confused. The communication might break down. So it's really important to be clear and make sure you're clear on how you order. And then if it doesn't come the exact way you want it, it's just one meal, okay? But eating at home, you don't have that problem, right? And so you can control how you prepare the food, all right? So some of the things you can do when you eat out: choose a restaurant that cooks to order, okay? They allow you to make swaps and adjustments way easier than some of the chain restaurants actually, everything's already prepared, they just cook it. Okay, so it comes the way it is. There's no way you can alter it. But if they're cooking it for you and you ask them to leave things out, they can do that more readily. Restaurants are really getting good about adhering to dietary requirements. So, for example, people that can't eat gluten, right? They have to be very careful. People that can't eat peanuts. So, it's okay to ask, and just be clear on the ask, all right? So, and this is where you develop the art of ordering, okay? And it kind of becomes this art, actually, because you have to kind of think ahead of how the foods are prepared. Because when you cook at home, this happens to me all the time. When I cook at home, I don't ever put croutons and cheese and oil on my salad. But yet when you eat out, that's kind of a standard thing for a lot of restaurants. So I always forget to ask. So I always have to be really clear on asking how it's prepared. So some of the things to keep in mind: salad dressing on the side, okay? Then you can control how much goes on it. Or just get plain vinegar or lemon, okay? You'll see today how lemon can really zest up some vegetables and make them taste so good. Order steamed versus sauteed. Right there, you're saving some oil calories, right? And most restaurants can easily steam for you, all right? Look at the side dish or the appetizer menu. Order several sides. If nothing on the menu, entree menu, is going to be conducive, and they can't change it to make it conducive to how you want to eat, like leave off the cheese or cook it without oil, then look at the side dish menu, and you can probably get a plain baked potato, steamed vegetables, a green salad, right? All those things. And same thing with the appetizers. You can often get a bruschetta or a fresh spring roll, right? Those sort of things. And the last thing is, don't be afraid to ask. Restaurants, they want to please you. They want to please you. They want you to enjoy your meal. And so, you have to just ask and then be kind of flexible with what you get, all right? Because sometimes they do make mistakes. But just remember, it's a pattern of eating. So if you don't get exactly, it's okay. Just enjoy it, all right? Just enjoy it. Because eating out, it's great to cook at home, but sometimes it's a real treat to eat out. And so I want you to still enjoy that, because it's social, it's fun, it gives you a break in the kitchen, all those things. It supports our local economy if you're going someplace local. I want you to have that, but it's just learning how to do it and still be healthful, okay? Okay, so that's the first thing. So here are some suggestions when you eat out, okay? Think about some of these are different types of restaurants. You have an American and Chinese and Indian and Thai and Italian and Mexican and Japanese. I couldn't fit them all on my slide, okay? So, but here's some ideas for you. So if you go into an American restaurant, so many of them are serving a veggie burger now. And this, I'm talking about a veggie burger, not a Beyond Burger or Impossible Burger, okay? Those two new on the market plant-based burgers, they're better for the environment. Yes, they are. They're not necessarily good for your health because they're still very high in saturated fats. So it depends on why you're eating them. So if you are eating them because you're thinking they're a healthier choice, I would encourage you to eat the true veggie burger that's made out of vegetables, okay? Black beans or whatever it is made. That's how I make mine, right? So that's just a choice. A baked potato, like I mentioned earlier, just get it plain. Get some salsa to put on it, no butter on it, okay? And get a couple of them. I was in Argentina several years ago, and Argentina is known for its beef, right? And we don't eat beef. So we ordered like plates of potatoes, and then my husband ordered a second order of it, and they told him, we're sorry, we're all out of potatoes. We literally cleaned them out of potatoes. So if you're hungry, eat more than one, all right? Also, there's always fresh salad in the side order of veggies like I told you about. Chinese restaurants, they're great for steaming vegetables and getting brown rice, okay? Often they'll have vegetarian noodle soup or something like that, all right? And Indian restaurants, a lot of the Indian restaurants offer vegetarian options, but just remember they use a lot of ghee, a lot of clarified butter, right? And so, focus more on the grains and like dal or the chana masala type dishes that have vegetables and stuff and not as much of the ghee in it, all right? And Thai, the fresh veggie spring rolls are great. You can get a vegetarian pad Thai, Italian pasta marinara, minestrone soup, and even a Mexican restaurant. You can get beans and rice and a veggie burrito, okay? You can go eat fast food like a Chipotle. I think I said that right. And you can get a veggie bowl there and just keep the cheese off of it. Get the black beans and get the brown rice and, get the peppers and all that. So there's so many options. And then the Japanese restaurants have vegetarian sushi, udon and soba noodles, right? So my point with this is I really want you to realize that you can eat out and you can make healthful choices, all right? And still enjoy eating out. Okay, so what about traveling, all right? Whether it be by car or by airplane or just, to and from work, right? Planning, okay? Planning is key. And so it's really thinking about, because when we make poor choices, and is when we're ravenous, okay, and we're not prepared, and then you'll eat anything in sight, right? But with air travel, especially, airports are getting better and better, okay? And there are actually links you can go to look in an airport and see, hey, where can I find a vegetarian meal or a vegan meal? And so they are getting better and better. And just so you know, you can actually get a meal like that served to you if you're traveling overseas and they're serving meals, okay? You have to order it in advance, okay? And it's kind of cool because they will actually serve you first because you have a special meal. And everybody's like, oh, man, who are you guys? And why did you get food served first? That looks really good. So in that case, it's kind of good to be different, right? So, planning is key. And carrying your own food is really crucial so you don't get over hungry, right? And so you can get a little ice chest like the one on the screen. As long as you're not carrying liquids, you can carry it through, all right? And so just know that. And so that's true on the plane. That's true of traveling by car. You can even take an ice chest by car. Like I said, order special meals ahead of time. That's by traveling by plane, or I don't know how it is on the train. I don't take the train very often, all right? But you can definitely order special meals ahead of time. And then when you get to where you're going, find a supermarket. You know, there's a lot of foods that you can just go pick up and go, and you know, eat really well. You know, Whole Foods is one of our favorites. When we're traveling, we kind of find those, and you can quickly put together a pretty easy meal in your hotel room by hitting a supermarket. All right, and then I think the last thing is when you're, you know, traveling, try to eat like the locals, okay? And this is like, especially because traveling is, you want to experience the culture, especially if you're going to another country. And part of that is experiencing their foods, right? And so if you're traveling and you want to experience it, do it. Do it. You know, so many other cultures, if you eat their traditional foods, you know, they are really healthful, okay? They are. It's the imported foods and the newer way of eating that's causing the health problems in those other countries. So definitely try to eat like the locals and enjoy it. Okay, whatever you choose, enjoy it. All right. Okay. So holidays. Moving on to holidays. A couple tips. Holidays are a big thing because there's so much emotion around holidays and memories and tradition. And all those things are really good. They are. And so if that's going to be your one day that you're like, I'm going to eat whatever I want and enjoy it, then you do it, okay? You do you. But if you want to try to stay to your eating plan, eating plant-based, there are some tricks, okay? One of them is to eat before you go. Remember, we don't want to get over hungry, right? Because that's when we start eating a little out of control and overeating. We eat too fast and then we overeat. And so you can eat something light before you go and then eat less of all those delicious treats and foods that you enjoy about the holiday, right? Or you could take a dish to share. This is my favorite, to take my very best plant-based dish or casserole and share it. And I tell you, it's always gone. People want to eat healthy. And so and when it tastes good, they do, you know? And so, you know, find a good recipe and take it and share. And people will really understand why you're doing what you're doing. And then, like I said, savor your favorite foods. Don't restrict them. Don't deprive yourself because then you just want them more, all right? Truly savor the foods and, you know, and really enjoy it. And really pay attention to what it is about that food that you like, okay? And then focus on the veggies, okay? Most of these meals have a lot of vegetables. So think about the ratio of your plate, right? Go ahead and, you know, take a little bit of this and that and then focus the bigger portion should it be the vegetables, okay? And just remember, it's all those condiments, the sour cream, the butter, the gravy, all those things that really make those more higher calorie and bring on the added fat that you can probably cut back on. And most importantly on the holidays when you're there, enjoy the people and the atmosphere because that's why we're there. The food's great, yeah, but you know, it's really the celebration and it's really the people and the atmosphere. So I encourage you to enjoy that, okay? So let's talk about some of our common questions that you might be getting. And I know this because I've gotten them a lot over the 11 years that I've been eating plant-based. The biggest one, if you ask anybody who's, you know, when they tell you you're plant-based, they'll say, wow, how do you get your protein? Okay, because we are so conditioned as a culture in the US that if you're not eating meat, you must be protein deprived, okay, or you might protein deficient. Let me tell you, we don't see much protein deficiency here in the US. We just don't. Our issue here in the US is overnutrition, not so much undernutrition, okay? And so, you know, I want you to just think about this. For women, you need about 45 to 55 grams a day of protein. All right, and do you get that every single day? No, your body is super great for, you know, what you don't get one day and you get the next, it uses everything, okay? Your body's pretty darn smart. And for men, you need about 55 to 65 grams a day. Now, if you have a chronic disease, if you are on dialysis or something like that, then those numbers will certainly be different for you, okay? Just know that. And so you should, if you're dealing with that, you should talk to your doctor. But in general, these are, in general numbers, okay? And so how do you get them when you're eating plant-based? Beans, nuts, vegetables, whole grains, and fruits. Okay, that's really all you need. All right, and beans are very high. So let me show you on the next slide what a meal like that would look like. Okay, so 46 grams of protein. Okay, this is what it looks like. A cup of oatmeal. That's not even adding any fruit or milk on top of it, or plant-based milk. 1 cup of lentils, a cup of brown rice, 2 cups of cooked broccoli, 2 tablespoons of almonds, and a half tablespoons of peanut butter. And mind you, usually when you put peanut butter on a sandwich, it's about 2 tablespoons, so it'd probably be more than that, right? So that's a lot of food, okay? It is. You get to eat all of that, okay? And all those foods are naturally low in calories as well, and they're really high in fiber, which is super great if you have type 2 diabetes, okay? Because higher fiber in your diet levels out your blood sugars, okay? And they're super great if you're trying to lose weight because it fills you up, okay? And you don't feel hungry. So I just want you to know, you can eat plant-based foods and still get enough protein. The next question I often get is, how do you get your calcium, okay? And this is, I think, comes up, okay, I had to put the picture of the cows on there because my brother owned a dairy and I grew up on a farm and milked cows, and they're just really cute, right? So I love cows. I'm not anti-milk, but aside from the fact that I don't want to consume it because it's not good for you. But, calcium is important. So how do you get it, right? Well, you get it through other sources. It's the marketing that made us believe that the only way to get enough calcium was through the dairy products. Okay, and it is easy to get it that way, but you can also get it through green leafy vegetables, okay? And you get antioxidants and fiber with those. You can get it from tofu, beans, nuts and seeds, fortified foods and drinks, right? So all of those things have calcium and are important. The thing that those foods I just told you, like the green leafy vegetables and the tofu, what they don't have, okay, that dairy products do, what they don't have are the saturated fat and the cholesterol. And that's what we're avoiding, okay? So, you can get your calcium from dairy products, and they taste pretty good to a lot of people. But what you also are getting with that is these things that aren't health promoting. You're getting the saturated fat, you're getting the cholesterol, and you're not getting any fiber. So animal products have 0 fiber in them, all right? And we need more fiber as Americans, okay? The average American eats probably about half of their daily requirement of fiber every day, okay? That's why we have a rise in, colon cancer, a lot of constipation, diverticulosis, all those things, okay? Because it's these fiber foods that we need in our diet, and they fill you up, okay? So, and the vegetables and all these other plant-derived foods bring you all these other great things as well. One key thing to note, too, about calcium, we focus so heavily on calcium, but is that you also need vitamin D, okay, from sunlight or from your diet to absorb that calcium. So you could be taking in all this calcium, but if you're not getting your enough vitamin D, it doesn't get absorbed anyway, all right? So just know that. So that was the question. Another question I get is, what about supplements? Okay, this is a big one. The supplement industry is huge, and people treat supplements like insurance. Well, I might not be eating very well, and so I'll take a supplement. So here's the deal. A supplement's not a good replacement for a poor diet, okay? You should be getting the nutrients and the vitamins and the minerals and antioxidants from your food, okay? And if you're eating a wide array of food, a variety of colors, right, then you're getting enough. But people with plant-based diets, it's a good idea to take a B12 supplement. And, I say that because B12 is really important for, it's an essential nutrient for healthy nerves and your blood, all right? And people get the idea that they have to eat meat to get B12, so I just want to clear that up. B12 is made by bacteria, okay? And the way the B12 gets into the animal products is they eat grass, okay? And so the B12, the bacteria is in the soil. So look at these carrots on the screen. See all that dirt? Back in the day, when we weren't as sanitary and clean, we ingested more microscopic particles of soil, okay? And so B12's deficiency was never a problem. But we're seeing more and more as we age that B12, whether you're vegan, plant-based, or not, a vegetarian, or you eat meat, it's still kind of low in all those populations. And so it's because even the animals aren't getting enough, okay? So I would encourage you, regardless of if you're eating meat or not, to have your B12 checked. It's not a bad idea, and to see where you are. You don't need a lot of it, but it's definitely a necessary essential nutrient. And it can be found in fortified foods. This is how I get mine. I take B12 once a week. Don't really need more than that. I use fortified foods in plant-based milks that I use maybe on my oatmeal. I use nutritional yeast because I use it, kind of tastes like cheese a little bit. Cereals are fortified with it, right? A lot of whole grains are fortified with it. So just start reading your labels. Remember, we did our labels. So start reading your labels, and you'll start seeing what the B12 is. If you're worried about it, go ahead and supplement. If you are strictly plant-based, go ahead and supplement, okay? But if you're still eating some meat products and doing that, you're probably fine, but get it checked, okay? So the most reliable source is a supplement. I can say that. It's way easier to get it that way than through your foods. That's probably the only supplement I would say that about, okay? All right, so what is next? What is next? We're gonna do a Hollywood Bowl brown rice salad, all right? And I didn't name it, I did not. The author of this recipe, and it'll be in the Dropbox. Remember the tiny URL, what is it, tiny URL? .com/ACC plant-based. There it is, thank you. You can find the recipe there. I also put in some handouts there for you about soy products and about healthy bones, because if you are worried about calcium, if you're eating more, plant-based foods, I want you to really feel good that you're still making a good choice, because so you can read about that, and all of the recipe from last week's in there as well. So ACC is doing a great job keeping us all organized and keeping everything out there too for me. So anyway, back to the salad. We're going to do the salad. And what I love about this salad is it goes together really quick. It stays in the fridge for a while, and it uses a lot of just things that we have in our garden here in Sacramento. So let's meet over in the kitchen. Thank you. Okay, welcome to my kitchen. I always feel like Mr. Rogers putting on my apron and getting ready here. So we're doing a brown rice salad, and I chose this, a salad, like I said, because a couple things. I always have leftover brown rice in my fridge, and I'm like, I don't like to waste food. I often will do, it in other things, but I also, and we grow a lot of zucchinis here this time of year. I mean, right? Who doesn't have zucchinis? My neighbor does and keeps giving them to me, and cucumbers and tomatoes. And this salad, this is how I found it, was I had these ingredients. And I'm like, I wonder if there's a recipe that has those ingredients. And this is where I found the recipe. And so, so this is what we're going to do today, right? So I brought the brown rice. So as you know, you can, you can go ahead and cook rice, all right? Here we go. This is just plain brown rice. Now, I don't know if you can see it there. There it goes. Yeah. I have to admit that I really like using California grown rice. I grew up on a farm outside of Sacramento, north of here, and amongst a bunch of rice fields with a bunch of rice farmers. So I grew up eating a lot of rice. And so I always default to California grown rice. And so, so how the recipe goes, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have brown rice, and then it's really simple ingredients. We have zucchini, all right? We have cucumber, okay, tomatoes, green onions, some cilantro if you choose to use it. Cilantro is one of those things that people either like or they don't, okay? They like or they don't. So, so those are the main ingredients that are going to go in this, all right? And then we can talk about some ways you might be able to mix it up a little bit to suit your taste. Because remember, nothing's very precise about a lot of my recipes, all right? And so you can add things, take things out. Cooking is very different than baking in that sense. It's, baking has to be a little more precise, a little more chemistry going on there. My recipes are not like that. It's kind of how the tastes you like, the textures, what do you have in the fridge type thing. So I had, go ahead and cook your rice however you cook it. Hopefully you might even have some leftover like I often do. And the recipe calls for, 1 cup. So you start out by putting your rice in, okay? You can see that. And then it says 1 cup of zucchini finely chopped. So you got your zucchini, and I chopped everything, but I was going to show you how I normally do it. I just kind of slice it down the middle, and then I flip it over. And you said, okay. Flip it over, and I just do little strips like this. And then we just, if you want to make them little, the idea is to make them not huge, okay? You don't want them completely huge because the rice isn't huge. And then you're just going to, cut them a little bit small pieces. Unless you like big chunks, then make big chunks, okay? So that's what we're going to do with the zucchini. That goes in. So it calls for 1 cup. So what I did, remember I told you it doesn't have to be precise. I used a whole zucchini. It was a little more than a cup, but I was like, what am I going to do with a little bit of zucchini? So I went ahead and just chopped it up, and so that's what's in here. So we dump that in, okay, 1 cup. And then we're going to go to our cucumber. This is so easy. Everything's like 1 cup, right? Okay, your cucumber. You have 2 choices. You can do it without peeling it, all right? Or you can peel it if you choose. This is how I look at things. The zucchini is dark green on the outside, right? And so I was like, let's mix up the colors a little bit. So I go ahead and peel my cucumber so it's a little more of a light green, okay? You can peel it. There's other ways you can actually run your fork down it and give it little lines if you want, but you're basically gonna, and I know people have mixed feelings about cucumbers, right? You can take out the seeds if they tend to bother you a little bit. You can the Japanese cucumbers are really good. They're not as, they're a little more mild flavor. So, these it's all up to you. I use the seeds. I figure it's more fiber, and I just chop those up basically the same way, kind of small, right? So then we're going to toss that in, and I already cut those up about a cup, so it calls for a cup. Okay, and then, now I'm guessing some of you might have these ingredients in a garden or have a neighbor that has them, right? So, and then we have our tomatoes. And there's nothing like a fresh tomato, right? Like off the vine. So, so I went ahead and, these are a little messy, so I went ahead and chopped these up in advance. And it says 2 cups, about 2 tomatoes, kind of depends on the size, but about a cup. So I did those, we're gonna throw those in, okay? Throw those in for you. Oh, it smells good. I wish you could smell it. It smells so good up here. And then the green onions. So in this recipe, it says to use the whole onion, and which I love because less waste, right? And adds different colors as well. So it calls for a ½ cup. I'm gonna put that in. Okay. And then here's the thing. Then it calls for cilantro. Now, cilantro is one of these things you either like it or you do not. I kind of am in between, all right? So I recently made this salad and my daughter was home and she does not like cilantro, so I just left it out. Still tasted great. So just know that's a possibility. Another option might be just plain parsley. You can put a little bit of that in. The recipe calls for 1 cup, which is a lot. I thought it was a lot. Now if you love cilantro, probably not enough, but I use less. So I am going to use it in this recipe, and we'll see how it goes. But I used like a ½ cup, okay? So I'm going to dump that in. Like I said, how I would do it, because I'm not a huge cilantro person, is that I would probably use it as a condiment or, as an accent on top, okay? And so those are the things. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to mix it up, kind of mix it all up. Isn't it pretty? A lot of colors. Get your rice going there. Make sure you get that cilantro mixed in so you don't get a big piece. So that's what I like about it. If I could just sprinkle it on top too, and it would still give a little bit of flavor as you serve it. You could just give it, but if you chop it up finely, it's not too bad. All right, so that's the bulk of the salad. Now comes the dressing part, okay? And this is what I love. Remember we talked about last week, there was ways, we used tahini last week instead of oil. Well, looks like we're not using either one. We're just using lemon, okay? And so, and I actually, when I first did this recipe, I had some really great Myers lemons, and I'm a lemon lover. Now, if you don't like tart or you don't like lemon, this might not be your salad, okay? But I use this cool little squeezer, okay? And you can measure it out, but I measured this literally about two lemons, and you just squeeze it over it. This works, doing fresh lemon like this works great over green salads too, over spinach, okay? And in fact, if you do the steamed spinach and you do lemon over it, it actually makes it, it more you can actually absorb some of the vitamins better. Okay, so there's one. Now, one of the things too is that you can eat this right away, but it's a little tart. So if you put it in the fridge, it tells you to put it in the fridge and let it kind of cover and chill it, and it definitely mellows it out a little bit, okay? So just know that. So if you're a lemon lover, you'll love it right off the hop. If you're less of a lemon lover, you might want to let it sit for a little bit, okay? We have one more of these to do. Oh, the lemon smells so good. It smells so good. I'm a lemon lover, okay? And we're going to mix that up. Now, it'll soak in a little bit if you let it sit. And then the last thing you want to do, okay, is you want to take some fresh ground pepper, okay, and just put it over it. It says about 1/4 teaspoon. I use a little bit more than that. And then it also calls for sea salt. Now, if you are you have hypertension, you probably want to avoid the salt, okay? And it doesn't really, honestly, it doesn't really need it because I usually make it without, but I thought I'd throw it in for today, okay, to make it complete. Now, that is it. How I would serve it is I might, let it sit for a little bit and then probably serve it up. Let's pretend it's chilled, okay? Serve it up later and then probably put a little sprinkle of pepper on it. Now, some of the other things you could do, I was thinking about this, it's like, wouldn't it be cool if you could even do a yellow bell pepper to add the yellow to it, right? And it would give it a little sweeter taste. Or what about some edamame? Okay, you could sprinkle some edamame on the top, and that would add a boost of protein if you wanted more protein in there, okay? And I don't know if you know, but the edamame, they just come frozen, right? You have them at all times. Okay, I've got to admit, I eat these as snacks all the time. These are like my go-to high-protein snack, and they have them in individual packages. You just microwave them, and they're good to go. But that's that's a way of getting protein into the salad. There's already some in here with the rice and everything, but if you're worried about that, it would protein it up. Avocado might be a nice garnish to put on it, right? You could put a little avocado on it. So that is the brown rice salad. I wish you could, can you see it okay? I wish you could smell how great it smells. It smells delicious. And I just sampled it not too long ago, and it's really tasty. It really is. So can you see it? There you go. Yeah. So that is it. Thank you again for joining me. We will be back next week for our 4th session, okay? And thank you so much to ACC again for having me. I wish you could see everything that goes on behind the scenes here, getting this set up ready for you. It's so awesome. A great team of people to work with. And next week, we're going to kind of pull it all together, review a little bit what we did. I'll do another recipe. And I really want to talk to you about healthful weight control, okay? That may not be an issue for you, but it might be something you're interested in too. And it's really kind of about mindful eating. So that's what we're going to talk about next week. Oh yeah, are there any questions? Questions? Do I have any? I can't see them.
What can you substitute for lemon?
Oh, for lemon? Oh, you know what might be good for lemon would be balsamic vinegar. If you like balsamic vinegar, I would probably try that. Yeah, that would be good too. Unless you don't like vinegary things. And then I would say maybe try the, it might be good. Remember last week we did the sesame ginger salad? That dressing might taste okay on it. I don't know. I haven't tried it. So what else do I have?
That seems like it's it.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next week.